Hey everybody, it's Chris Gethard here. And this is weird, right? Because I usually only show up on Tuesdays, and it's Friday. Well, we're going to give you some free content. If you are only into Beautiful Anonymous because you like the phone calls, I get it. No harm, no foul. I won't be mad at you. Feel free to just delete this one and move on. I say that so sincerely. But guess what? I have mentioned a bunch of times on the show that I've been working on a book, and it's out this week. And you guys listened to audio featuring my voice, and I said, might be nice to give those people free sample of the audio book of Lose Well. We got an audio version of the book. We have an audio podcast that people enjoy. Seems like a good crossover. And I like giving away stuff for free. So you're about to hear a chapter from my book. I've thought long and hard about what one you guys might like. And it's funny because the book, just so you know, it has a lot of philosophy in it. And some of that's just straight up, here's some stuff I've learned in my 18 years of trying to be a creative person that I think could help anybody. Some of it is some anecdotes that go off on tangents. And this one is kind of a mix of both. You guys might like this one, I thought. I talk a lot in the book about certain things that I saw or experienced growing up that I didn't even realize were kind of influencing how I would approach life moving forward. This is one of those experiences. This is a chapter all about how strange my dad can be sometimes, but how I didn't even know that, because when you're a parent, you just got to pretend things aren't strange. And I think a lot of you guys might identify with this. It's a pretty funny story. It's a pretty weird one of a thing that I enjoy and that I learned from. And like I said, the book is multifaceted. It has a lot of philosophy and advice, and it also has some stuff that's straight up funny. But I think this is just a nice blend of a lot of different pieces of the book. So you're about to hear the chapter, The Falcon, from my new book, Lose Well, which is available now as an audiobook. You got the Kindle edition, you got the actual book. It's available in all those different formats. So thanks for checking it out if you're so inclined. Thanks for buying a copy if that's what you want to do. It means the world to me. And I hope you enjoy this free sample. The Falcon. You won't know when or what form it will take, but a reckoning is always imminent. When it comes, you'll need to handle it, to do the dirty work and break your back. Right now, you want to accomplish something. It's hard. If it were easy, you wouldn't be frustrated. Odds are that the difficulties you face will not be taken care of for you. You'll have to conquer them yourself. The ability to do dirty work on your own behalf is the difference between being entitled and being deserving. At some point, you're going to face a put-up-or-shut-up moment. Getting in the trenches is how you'll prove to yourself and all your doubters that you're willing to fall on your face on your own terms. When people doubt you, one of the only surefire ways to send them an emphatic shut the fuck up is to get your own hands dirty and show them how it's done. The greatest example of a get in the trenches mentality in my own life is when I took my television show to the uncharted frontier of public access television. This wasn't just a creative risk, it was a logistical nightmare. Not only did I have to make a show I was proud of, I had to convince a gang of 24 comedians, musicians, film kids, and assorted weirdos, all of whom helped in unpredicted ways, to keep showing up and working for free on this thing with my name on it. I wasn't pampered on public access. I needed to prove to everyone involved that I was ready to hustle to make it happen. Hustling would prove the show was worthy of its existence and demonstrate to the people willing to have my back that I wasn't wasting their time and considerable talent. The ultimate proof that I was willing to get my hands dirty was the trunk of my car. We didn't get a storage locker at the public access studio. We weren't allowed to leave anything there week to week. All we got was the promise that the studio was ours with about 40 minutes of prep time before the show went live every Wednesday night at 11. During those 40 minutes, we had to get all the audio up and running, get the lights focused correctly, and build the set. And that set lived for 4 years in the trunk of my car. On any given Wednesday between 2011 and 2014, if you stood on 59th Street between 10th and 11th Avenues, you'd see me driving my beat-up 2001 Nissan Sentra, most likely with a panicked look on my face, as I desperately looked for a parking spot across the street from our studio. Because nothing involved with public access is ever easy or convenient, the block was located on the steepest hill I've yet to encounter in Manhattan. If I couldn't find a spot out front, I'd have to park at the bottom of the hill, which meant my night was going to be a little sweatier and a lot more of a pain in the ass. I'd parked the car. I'd popped the trunk. I'd removed the suitcase full of our assorted audio gear, wires, clips, and all sorts of other equipment I didn't know how to use. After setting the audio gear on the curb, I'd remove our show's backdrop, a gigantic canvas drop cloth I bought at Home Depot. I spray painted the words "The Chris Gethard Show" on it, and every band who ever played our show signed it. The backdrop lived in a tote bag, which I'd hang over my neck. Then I'd remove the stand the backdrop hung from, which folded into a 4-foot-long tube. I'd grab any props we were using that episode. Once that meant a bag of sex toys for our dominatrix episode. Other episodes required different props, like 6 toy bats for our Wiffle Bat Gang episode, cardboard robot outfits for our Robot Fights episode, or giant Nerf guns we mounted on the camera for our Camera Cannon episode. That trunk was home to all sorts of weird shit, because invariably, anytime I threw away a prop, we'd need to use it again. Eventually, I got tired of buying the same dildos over and over again, so I just kept my collection of sex toys and other props in the trunk of my Nissan. Every week, with the canvas bag hanging from my neck, I'd drag all that shit uphill, my arms draped over the banner stand in a Christ-like crucified vibe, lugging behind me with one hand the suitcase of audio equipment and the bag of props with my other hand. If I were lucky, someone who worked on the show would arrive around the same time and help me. Sometimes fans who were lining up for the show would take pity on me and grab an item or two. It's a unique type of humiliation, having one of your fans carry your bag of dildos because they saw you struggling with it. But most often, getting everything into the studio was my weekly ritual of pain to endure on my own. Sweaty and out of breath, I'd arrive at the front door of the Manhattan Neighborhood Network exhausted. And if some dumbass prop fell out of a bag and cut me, or I tripped on the sidewalk, bleeding, collapsing in a heap, all before performing a live show, the door guy would buzz me in, and bit by bloody bit I'd drag my own TV show into the studio, where the crew would grab what they needed off my broken and battered body and get to work setting everything up. My weekly ritual was a regular reminder that I didn't just want this show to happen, I needed it to. No one in the television industry was interested in my show, so I did the dirty work and bloodied up my knuckles to will it into existence. Was it a little nuts? Yes, it was, but it was also required. Luckily, I learned how to get my hands dirty from the best. When I was a kid, vacation meant piling into my dad's van for a road trip. The van was a key asset because it had a tiny TV in the back to distract us and was spacious enough that my brother and I could sit far enough away from each other that we wouldn't erupt into random fistfights. When my brother graduated from 8th grade, we embarked on the crown jewel road trip, Disney World. My childhood home in West Orange, New Jersey is 1,095 miles from the Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida. Not counting stops, the trip takes 16 hours and 14 minutes to get there, which is impossible under ideal conditions, let alone when your wife hates driving on highways and needs periodic breaks, and especially when you have 2 kids who are constantly trying to beat the shit out of each other in the back seat. Whenever we set off on a long trip, I could tell my dad was putting himself someplace else. To survive any upcoming trip, he had to mentally leave us, retreating inside his head, where it was much more peaceful than the interior of our family's van. A zen place, somewhere deep inside his mind, that would allow him to drive his family across an impossible distance without winding up in a mental hospital. The turnpike treated us kindly. Jersey was a breeze. The quick swing along the Delaware-Pennsylvania border presented no problems. Maryland went by in a flash, but Virginia, a Commonwealth, fucked us. Bumper-to-bumper traffic. Commuters escaping Washington. Traffic stood so still, a few college kids got out of their car and tossed a frisbee around on the highway. It was hot. We were bored. It wasn't good. Tension was brewing, but my dad held it together. He breathed deeply. He stayed somewhere far away. When we finally got through that mess, my dad gave it a little extra gas to make up for lost time. This made my mom very skittish. When my mom gets nervous in a car, she will say her signature catchphrase to my dad. Ken, watch out. If another car gets too close, it's Ken, watch out. If a car miles ahead of us slows down, Ken, watch out. If the wind blows too hard, Ken, watch out. Her words of warning became such a part of our road trips, they became for my father nothing more than background noise, no different from the rumble of the highway or the clicking of his turn signal. Near the southern border of Virginia, I was sitting in the back seat poking my brother in the neck, trying to set him off, when I hear my mom say it. Ken, watch out. Only this time it has some unusual urgency to it, and to my surprise, my dad answers her. I see it. Ken, watch out. I see it. What do you want me to do? Alarmed, my brother and I stopped tormenting each other and looked out the front windshield. A bird. Not just any bird. The most intimidating bird I've ever seen, a bird of prey. I'm no ornithologist, nor am I certain that ornithology is the study of birds. That's how little I know about birds. But I can say for certain that this thing is not a pigeon. It's big, and it's not a hawk. I saw hawks circling high above trees around my suburban streets all the time. And while hawks are cool, they're not as big as the bird that was flying over the center of the highway, getting lower and lower and targeting the front of our car. We'll call it a falcon. I have no idea if falcons inhabit the East Coast. I don't even know if falcons are extinct. But just for clarity's sake, this monster bird shall heretofore be known as a falcon. No, deserves more respect than that. This monster bird shall heretofore be known as the falcon. The falcon was bearing down on us. It wasn't headed in our general direction. It wasn't accidental. It had decided that my father's van was its enemy. My brother and I went silent, but my mother, she did not. Her signature slogan increased in intensity. Lost in concentration, my father only got more calm. Ken, watch out! I see it. Ken, watch out! What do you want me to do, Sal? I see it. The falcon got lower and faster, and in my eyes, angrier and more determined. Ken, I know. Ken, I see it. The falcon hit our van head on. There was a loud noise, like a pillow hitting a wall at 100 miles an hour. Bird feathers exploded in front of the van and made scratching noises as they cascaded along the van's windows. Then, nothing. My father drove on. My mom said, "Oh my God, a few times, but my father maintained the same pace. He didn't swerve. He didn't even pump the brakes. He just kept driving. My father drove without stopping for the next 5 hours, all the way through North Carolina. Finally, just before we crossed into South Carolina, my father pulled into a rest stop so we could eat, probably at a Hardee's or a Shoney's, one of the fast food places we didn't have in the Northeast. We did not stop at south of the border, one of America's greatest roadside attractions. It's a Mexican-themed rest stop / fireworks store / condom depot / racist nightmare. 2 thumbs up. Greg and I were thrilled. Fast food that you can't find in your region seems exciting, even though it's definitely as terrible as all the other kinds of fast food. We exited the van. My father walked around to the front, let out a sigh, and nodded his head. He tried to stop my mother from following, but before he could, she said, "Oh no," and looked away. Greg and I sprinted around the bumper, our necks craning to see what our parents were gawking at, and that's when we saw it, the Falcon. It was hanging out of the front grille at a 30-degree angle, its back half sticking out of the hot metal like a javelin that had been tossed from afar. The Falcon had kamikazed our van. And man, did it go out in a blaze of glory. I don't know if the Falcon had been riddled by depression for its whole life or if recent events had caused a sense of hopelessness, but for some reason, the Falcon decided to commit suicide by attacking a speeding projectile, in this case, my family's dependable plus-size van. A full state and a half my father had driven with this thing sticking out of our vehicle. People must have thought we were insane. A big beat-up van with a bird of prey smashed across its front? This was some Mad Max shit. We were road warriors. No wonder all the other cars were getting out of our way. Greg said, "Whoa!" and I yelled, "Gross!" with glee, since I was a preteen boy and gross stuff rules at that age. My dad reached into his pocket, removed his wallet, and handed my mom $20. "Get yourself and the kids whatever you guys want," he said. "Get me a number 2 meal. Large fries, please." There was no emotion in his voice, no trace of fear, no recognition at all that this was anything but a normal occurrence. My mom led us inside. We ordered our food. We sat down. We ate. Moments later, my father entered the restaurant and made a beeline for the bathroom. He emerged carrying every paper towel the bathroom's dispenser had to offer and made his way back to the front of the van. With maximum curiosity, my brother and I craned our necks and watched through the window. Our vantage point wasn't perfect, but we definitely saw our father wrapping his hands in paper towels and, to our horror, yanking the Falcon from our van piece by piece. Wide eyes, dropped jaws. This was epic. My dad was on cleanup duty of a real bad scene. He had no hose, no tools. What tools could even handle this? Public restroom-grade paper towels were all that was available. He took care of it. After 10 minutes of truly gruesome work, my father re-entered the fast food joint and proceeded straight back to the John. He was in there for a long time, and when he came out, he reeked of industrial-grade fast food restroom soap. There wasn't a trace of the Falcon on him. He'd rubbed his skin raw with that pink slime cleaner. Without a word, he unwrapped his number 2 special and took a big bite out of it. Maybe that's what being a dad is. Not freaking out in the face of complete insanity. Because if you don't freak out, maybe the people around you won't freak out either. If you pretend that life isn't a constant stream of punches to the gut, maybe the people who depend on you won't ever get hit. Life's quicksand. My dad made me think it's stable. Life's an erupting volcano. My dad made me think it's a trip to Disney World. Life is the Falcon attacking your car. My dad made me think it's just another road trip. My dad knew how to do his dirty work. A reckoning always comes. I've had my own highway adventures. In 2013, my friend Johnny Wo threw a barbecue in his mom's backyard in Long Island. My wife and I picked up a few pals, and we all drove out there together. It was a good, laid-back day. On the ride home, though, I hit a big-ass pothole. Right away, I felt the rumble of a deflating tire. This highway was lined with mini-malls, and I veered off into the parking lot of a 7-Eleven. "Geez," Hallie said, "that was close." "Yeah," I told her. "I'll change the tire. You guys go grab some stuff from the store. Give me one of those weird peanut butter and jelly things I like." Hallie and 2 of our friends entered the 7-Eleven. I let out a deep breath and prepared to switch my tire out for the donut. The donut that lived in my trunk. Within a few minutes, that parking lot was lined with every insane prop my public access show had ever used. People in the parking lot stopped on the way to their cars and stared in confusion. I saw workers at the 7-Eleven motioning to each other so they could look. First, I removed a sizable amount of audio and video equipment, then a bunch of stands, so many metal stands for different pieces of equipment, then the canvas banner, then a weird suitcase, and out came the props. 2 4-foot-long Nerf cannons, a huge double-headed dildo, a papier-mâché head of my own likeness with removable glasses, a bag of water-filled balls with human-shaped nipples on them, and so much more. I emptied it all, shamelessly, item by item. It was a hot summer day, so I took off my shirt as I fished the spare and jack out of the bottom of my now-empty trunk. People stared at me, this grunting, sweaty man who had recently lined the parking lot with sex toys and video equipment and had removed half his clothes in broad daylight. When I finally changed the tire, I put everything back into my trunk, piece by piece. Back in the trunk went the 6 full oversized rolls of aluminum foil, the green full-body spandex suit with attached mask, the half-deflated blow-up doll of an African-American male pornography star. My wife and friends watched the entire scene unfold from inside the air-conditioned 7-Eleven, laughing at me, drinking Slurpees. As I buttoned up my shirt, I gave them a solemn nod. Then we all got back in the car and drove home, safe and sound, able to chase our dreams for another day on our sad but beautiful terms. There will be days when you think no one else in this world believes in you or your dreams, and you will be right. During those times, you must find a way to be your own greatest champion. Sometimes that means doing the real work yourself. Slog through the mud on your own behalf. And at the end of those days, as you stand in front of the mirror, you get to look a sweaty, messy, hard worker who fights for your dreams right in the eyes. Hey everybody, it's Chris. As you've probably heard, got a new series, Beautiful Follow-Ups. We're following up with some of the all-time great callers from the history of this show. Here's me saying hello to a bunch of them.
Thank you for following up with Beautiful Anonymous.
Hey, Gaff.
Hello, old friend. Hello?
Hello, this is...
I'm not supposed to know that.
It's good to hear your voice, Chris. I'm glad to be able to do this with you.
Hey, it's Gethard.
Hey, Gethard. Good to hear from you.
Hey, is this the Puppet Master?
This is the Puppet Master. How are you?
Hey, this is Gethard.
Chris Gethard, how are you?
Beautiful Follow-Ups. Come join me on Stitcher Premium. We'll all catch up with some old friends together. And guess what? You get a free month if you go to stitcherpremium.com/stories. Use the code STORIES.
Oh, baby, come back. Oh, baby, come back. It's not the same since you left.
Hey, this is Arnie from the comedy podcast Hello from the Magic Tavern, a chat show I host from the magical land of Foon with my co-hosts
Usador, the Blue Wizard,
and Chunt, the Shapeshifter.
Most weeks we interview adventurers,
wedding planners,
ambulatory trees.
But this week we have a special episode.
I am so excited to learn about the Earth lore contained in Pride and Prejudice.
We're going to do a book club of Pride and Prejudice.
And you said this is a well-loved book on Earth, right?
Yeah, it's one of those books that people love or were forced to read, or more likely it's one of those I'm going to get to it.
And some of our most beloved guests are returning to read the book with us and enjoy some drinks and food over book club.
We have Flower, we have Crom the Barbarian.
And Germ.
You know who they are.
Maybe you don't give a crap about what an academic thinks about Jane Austen, but don't you want to know what a wizard and a badger think about it?
Not enough spells.
Not enough grubs.
Not enough sword fights.
Whether you love Pride and Prejudice or have no interest in reading it and just want to listen to a book club go really off the rails, you'll enjoy this week's Hello from the Magic Tavern.
We shall defeat this book!